Talk a little bit about why this is important to you and your office. I know you talked about it as well when you became Attorney General.
Sure. First of all, a number of states, including in the District of Columbia, their Attorney General has the authority to investigate, prosecute, and remediate civil rights violations. And whether it's based on race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identification. And we believe it's important in Maryland. We're the fourth most diverse state in the nation, yet we do see persistent signs of persistent discrimination. You see it in the marketplace, you see it in housing, in the workplace. So our goal is to bring that kind of authority to the Office of the Attorney General so we can bring big impact cases on behalf of the people of Maryland.
Yeah. And why do you think that this hasn't been approved by the legislature before now? I mean, this is generally considered a blue state in Maryland. So why hasn't this been on the books to give the AG power before now?
I've been in Maryland now for 30 years. I've been in Annapolis either as member of the House of Delegates, Lieutenant Governor, now Attorney General. And at no time has the Office of Attorney General sought this type of authority. Now, I can't speak for my predecessors. I can only speak about going forward. And I know that I've heard from families, particularly in Black and brown communities, where the housing appraisal is different than what you see in other neighborhoods. In fact, there's a case in Baltimore City where an African-American couple, their appraisal was significantly less than the other homes in the surrounding neighborhoods. And certainly, I think, clear signs of discrimination happening there. So now is the time to seek this authority. So notwithstanding what may or may not have been sought in the past, it's a priority for me, and I'm going to work with the General Assembly to make sure we have this authority.
And talk about why it's a priority for you. I mean, I know you're African American, obviously. As you've mentioned, you've been in the legislature prior. Talk about why this is critical legislation for your office and why the public should understand and care about it.
Look, this is important legislation because regardless of who you are, whether you're, regardless of race or ethnicity or where you live or what your faith is, what your orientation or identification is, if you live in Maryland, you should enjoy all of the rights of living in Maryland. You should enjoy all of the privileges of being a Marylander. Yet, regrettably, we see discrimination where we are depriving Marylanders of rights and opportunities simply because of who they are. And that's wrong. So as Attorney General, we want to go after that. We want to identify it, investigate it, and where necessary, prosecute that so that discrimination in Maryland, it's a clear message that discrimination in Maryland has no place.
Right. And will you have an extra department to handle these cases? I'm assuming, given the complaints that I've seen from the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, there are a lot of complaints out there that happen. Is there a special department that you'll need to adjust to deal with these complaints and investigating these cases?
Under this legislation, if we're successful, we're going to create a civil rights enforcement unit. So we'll have a number of attorneys, we'll have investigators and support staff that can bring these actions. So we will be creating a new unit in the Office of the Attorney General. We currently have a civil rights unit, which is involved more in outreach and education. We'll combine the two so that we'll have a true full-fledged civil rights unit in the Office of the Attorney General.
Last question, what kind of message do you think this will send to businesses, lenders, et cetera, who do actively redline, discriminate against people of color or others based on ethnicity, religion? What kind of message does this send to them, and should people who do this be worried?
I think, first of all, people who don't do it, I think, are going to welcome this authority in the Office of the Attorney General. The vast majority of actors in the marketplace, whether you're selling products or services, whether you're a vendor or a subcontractor, the vast majority engage in lawful practice with any and all. It's the handful of that don't. So I think for the most part, there are going to be those who look at this and say, this is a good thing. And for those who do practice discriminatory practices, engage in discriminatory practices, they should be on notice. They should be aware that the Office of the Attorney General is going to make sure that discrimination has no place in Maryland.